I'm Thomas Logan, and I've been the co-organizer of this meetup. We're almost going on 10 years now, so we are nearing a decade of doing these events, and we're really happy to have you all here with us in person as well as on our live stream on YouTube. We want to say thank you to Jolie McPhee back here in the back for our stream. Every stream is saved on our YouTube channel, and he's from the Internet Society of New York's Accessibility Special Interest Group. And we've been doing this from the beginning because if you live here in New York, it's often difficult to arrive in person to an event. There's not and today's very rainy, probably also maybe where you are in the world. But we always want to have our stream available, and we always encourage full participation. You don't have to come in person to be participating at our events, and we really thank Jolie for enabling that with our live stream. We also caption all of our events, and today we have Mira by Night, who we've worked with also from the beginning of doing our meetup. We always use human captioning. We believe in accurate captioning for our events, and that also goes into what gets published on YouTube. We use the human captioning text to create the captioning stream for what we publish on the web. We want to say thank you to Meryl Evans, who is here on the YouTube channel, and she's down in Texas. And she will be fielding the questions that we receive on the YouTube stream. So again, as we said, you can fully participate on YouTube. You do not need to come in person. Our YouTube stream is youtube.com/A11YNYC. And we always publish the live stream link and as well as the archive of events there. We would like to thank ArcTouch, part of the AKQA group. That's where we are today. We're here in Soho in New York City, and we are at the AKQA group's office, and we really appreciate being able to host our events here. ArcTouch helps companies design and develop lovable apps, websites, and connected experiences with an accessibility-first approach. If you want to learn more, contact Ben, who is down in the lobby helping people be able to come into our event here today on a rainy New York City night. But he will be here, and also Keith, who I believe is also not here, but both Ben and Keith can talk to you about what they're doing. We also want to say thank you to our sponsors for the generous support. So Equal Entry, my company, and Accessibility Consultancy, as well as Events, an automated accessibility solutions company. Fable is an accessibility platform powered by people with disabilities. And finally, Asana, a work management platform. And these sponsors help make sure that we can enable having accessible captions and a live broadcast for our events. And we've had that from the very beginning. We've never not had human captions or a live stream for our events. And with that, I'd like to hand it to Shion Horn here, one of my great friends. But we've met many years ago at an event at Accessibility in New York City, and also she is on the board of ReelAbilities, what we'll be presenting tonight. So I'd love for you to introduce our speaker tonight.
Wow. Well, first of all, to be with so many of my favorite people in one space is always an honor, especially on a rainy day. We've earned this, but it's definitely going to be worth your while. I'm not biased at all. I'm actually on the film selection committee for ReelAbilities. Fun fact, also ReelAbilities gave me my first speaking gig ever. I toured the 5 boroughs with a film called Miss Wheelchair America, and fell in love with ReelAbilities ever since. And then we put a ring on it in 2016 when I joined the film selection committee. But enough about me. I really want to thank it's really Yitzi, or Isaac Zablocki, who is not only the co-director but the co-founder of ReelAbilities, as we celebrate our Sweet 16. I can tell you, and this is, I'm not biased at all, but what I love about YITSY, what I love about ReelAbilities is from the beginning, they have centered the films around our voices. So one of the reasons that I was even brought in was they had said to a friend of mine, we really want somebody with a disability to speak with you, because my friend was non-disabled, and that's how they brought me in. But I want to just say that YITSY, he has kids, he has a wife, he has a wonderful family, but he really, I think, sees ReelAbilities and this festival as another child and another part of the family, and just expanding the family. So his commitment is more than just in a professional capacity. He gives all of his heart, all of his time, and his passion to this, which is why he came in the rain tonight. So I just want to say to you, because I don't get to say it enough, how much I love you. I love what you do. I love that I have such a wonderful companion. And, I think everyone here, if you're here, you care about representation, you care about inclusion, you care about accessibility. And I think you exemplify that so much, YITSY, and I can't wait for everyone to hear more about ReelAbilities from you now.
I'm happy to share. Where should I stand, by the way? Where should I be?
Close to here, if that's okay.
And I'll say that someday nobody will have heard of much about what ReelAbilities was. All they'll know is that was that place where Sean Horn had her first talk, and that she's making sure that we get remembered for that. I'm going to sit. Is that okay? So I'm Isaac, or YITSY Zablocki. If you could do the YITSY, you're welcome to. Isaac is easier for most. And it's very funny. Tomorrow night is the opening night of ReelAbilities, our 16th annual. It's a big night. We got a lot going on. The movie's not working. It's all production, and I was writing my opening night remarks, and one of the things I'll give you a preview. I was going to say there is that I'm very lucky that my work is an extension of who I am and my beliefs and the kind of world I want to live in. So I'm glad to have people who help create that same kind of world. Back to Sean.
Okay, I'm stealing the mic for one very important thing. This group is called Ally, or A11Y. There's no greater ally than you as well. So I think this is a perfect marriage. The fact that LIVESTREAM, you're one of my favorite people on planet Earth. Thomas, Cameron, Sean, everybody, Meryl, I mean, the entire list goes on and on and on. But I'm just so happy that my favorite people get to celebrate you, and to be continued. That's it. Okay.
So let me tell you everything I can. We're going to watch a movie here about ReelAbilities. I'm sorry for the folks at home, because of for rights purposes, we can't show the movie at home, but we're going to show things here for those in person, and the folks at home will get to watch some trailers from our movies. And let me tell you everything, and then we're happy to take questions, and I'll also try to keep track of time. So ReelAbilities is now the largest disability film festival in the world. We try to show films that a lot of it Sean, I think, captured, and this is also our second event together today, so she has to hear all these stories again. But I'll try to give him a twist. And it was born out of New York City. It actually has I'll give you also all the inside little secrets that on our fourth year of the festival, we started. Should I not be here? On the fourth year of our festival, we got a request from Cincinnati, literally, to have a ReelAbilities there, and we said sure. We've captured the films, or we have all the films, we have all the connections, we've created all the accessibility for these films. Let's pass it to another city. That took off like wildfire, and other cities were like, "Oh, we would like it." And we had heard before of other cities that kept requesting, but it really, it takes resources to start a festival like this, and it takes a real good organization on the ground. So ReelAbilities started here in New York, and then runs in dozens. It's run over the years in literally dozens of cities across the U.S., into Canada. We have Mexico now. We are constantly expanding, constantly getting requests for more ReelAbilities in more places. And really, we're a bad franchise model where we don't get any kickbacks. We just, here's the package. Here's how you have to run it. You need to be trained. You need to do this right. You need to make it accessible. You have to have the pillars of what we believe in. And that kind of is a good way to tell you a little bit about what ReelAbilities is. So first of all, number one of what makes ReelAbilities special is our movies. Our movies are fantastic, high quality films. We don't make any compromises in terms of cinematic quality, production, and writing and acting and everything about it. And at the same time, we make no compromises in terms of the messages that these films give. So these films are all I'd say progressive films in terms of its approach to disability. It's there's been a lot of trouble with Hollywood all these years. I go back to in my day. I think about a film like Rain Man. And the damage that has done to the autistic community, because now anybody who says that they're autistic, immediately you assume they could count cards and tell you how many matches just fell on the floor. And obviously, Hollywood hasn't done the best job, especially there's been no authenticity. There's been not enough, usually there's a little bit of a Band-Aid in terms of the kind of like representation they try to put out there, when actually there's important work that needs to be done. And we're seeing now that work is being done. So, for all the bad things I could say about Hollywood, I am seeing change, and that's really exciting. Another pillar of ReelAbilities is our partnerships. We don't think that we are in a vacuum, and we know that there have been many before us, there are many after us, and there's so many right now doing the work on the ground. And we want this to be a space where we want to create a space where all of our partners can feel welcome and feel like they can be a part of I like to think it's a stage for the disability community. This is a moment for our community to be in the spotlight. What am I missing? Partnerships, the quality films, conversations. We follow each film with a conversation, no matter what. As you heard from Sean, she spoke at one of our films. We want to just take these films, not just to have them on the screen, let you have whatever moving, life-changing, forever memorable experience that you're going to have. We want to take it further and actually say, make the community a part of this, like we're doing right now, and actually having the community interact with the films. And that's kind of some of the most beautiful things come from that. I personally, last year, I saw how I recognized what a community I'm taking credit here, we have helped build over the years. And suddenly there's all these regulars that are coming, and they're meeting up with their friends, which is not easy always for our community. And it's and bringing everybody together and having these conversations and seeing first-timers who every year there's a first-timer who says, I've never seen myself up on the screen, and this is the first time I'm seeing it. And then you have somebody who doesn't think that they have any connection to the disability community, and they're watching the movie for the first time, and they're saying, wow, this is something that I completely relate to, and I had no idea. So it's that full spectrum of the community coming together. And that's the beauty, I think, of film, is that it's kind of like, there's very low entrance barriers to film. And we try to bring in, so people are coming. I feel like we're serving ice cream. People are coming for a fun movie, and hopefully the movie that we show tonight you'll enjoy and say, oh, I came from a disability film event, and it was really depressing. No, we don't show. Those are not the kinds of films we show. We show films that will engage the community. Sometimes they're really happy. Sometimes they're a comedy. Sometimes they're dramatic, but they're engaging and will stay with you and give you a new perspective on disability. Another core value of ours is accessibility. We are raising the bar on accessibility every year, looking for new things. It's kind of slowed down because we've done a lot, but going from like the early years where there weren't enough audio describers in New York to describe the films. We had to train people to become audio describers. But of course now we're at a place where, I'll tell you another embarrassing secret. In our early years, not all of our films were audio described. We do it for films that were related to the blind community specifically, and to films, which is now totally absurd to me, and by request. So, I remember one year we got a request at the last minute. Somebody called us up and said, "I'm blind, I'm coming to the film tomorrow." We're like, we don't have audio description for this film. What are we going to do? We live audio described it for this person. We made it happen. It was amazing, and I think the people who actually did the hard work of doing that live, it was quite an experience. Since then, we've realized, oh, wait a minute. It was at 1 year we reached the point we said, this year we're going to raise the money and we're going to make every film audio described. Every film was shown with open captions. So ReelAbilities can be a space where you don't have to go. For those of you who are part of the disability community, is this accessible to me? Is always like the first question. Is this good? What is this experience going to be like? It is. We try to remove that question as much as possible and make it a fully accessible experience. Always learning. Always also figuring out there's always that friction that exists. One thing that's makes things accessible to one person might make things inaccessible to another person. So this is something that we're really constantly trying to be aware of. And the big change that happened last year, we've always been big believers in universal design. I saw that here in these offices. For some reason, there was something about universal design as I came in. I don't know what kind of office we're in. What is it? Creative agency. I saw it as I was starting to say, might this be an architectural space, and they know about universal design. But universal design designed for absolutely everyone. And by the way, we're here in New York City. I know we're cheering for New York, but it is so hard for us to find screening spaces that are actual screening spaces. With all respect, we're not just looking for a big open room. We don't want to compromise the theatrical experience, so we want a real movie theater. And we're a festival that brings in literally dozens of people in wheelchairs. Doesn't exist. It is impossible to find. We managed to find a place that has 14 wheelchair seats for our opening night. And you have to get a really big theater, so the percentages, because it's all ADA requires a certain percentage of wheelchair, and that's why bigger spaces sometimes have enough, but we can't fill the biggest spaces. So it's a real challenge. We're lucky enough, our main location is the JCC in Manhattan, where it's one of the few spaces that has a fabulous theater and ample wheelchair seating. There's imperfections there too, but that's of course part of the accessibility experience. And what we also like about the JCC specifically is it's universally designed. It's not that the wheelchairs have to take this elevator on the side. Even in the worst case scenarios, wheelchair users have to take the elevator in the back. In the trash, even worse. A special entrance, come up this ramp here that we just put up, and then use the back entrance, the service elevator. We love spaces where everybody's having the same experience together. It's also extremely, extremely rare here in New York, especially with all these old buildings. And we bring everybody in together. So that's was our universal design. And then last year we implemented this concept of individual design too, where we've had this table for a few years now, but we have a table where it's how can we make this experience more accessible for you? How can we make sure that you're having all of your needs met here, which is a luxury, I realize, in our world, but we feel that that's a statement that we want to make and something that we want to provide. We have a sensory room. All of our conversations are captioned, and we, of course, I mentioned the audio description, ASL interpreters, and there's tons of little things. We discovered in year 5 of our festival that the soap in the women's bathroom was inaccessible, which kind of devastated me a little bit for many reasons. But the little things like that. A door doesn't open in the right way, and we try to really figure that out and make things as accessible as possible. Our films, beyond being fantastic, they are diverse. We cover the disabilities across the full spectrum of disabilities. When people ask me, oh, do you consider that a disability? The answer will be yes, because whatever that is, it's something that we try to cast as wide of a net as possible. We had one year a film about migraines. Some might say that migraines is not a disability. I don't understand how anybody can. They've obviously not met anyone who has ever had a migraine, but but yes, we try to find the films that include any kind of disability. We also love films that are not about the disability, but rather include disability in its story of life, of drama, of whatever it is. One of my favorites years ago was a film called Kills on Wheels, which was about some gangsters. It was a Hungarian film. It was their nominee for the Oscar that year, and just a group of assassins in wheelchairs, and they happened to be in wheelchairs. The movie wasn't about the wheelchairs. I mean, sure, they used it and that was an angle. It wasn't ignored, but it wasn't about that. It was actually had its own story. So we're running April 3rd. That's tomorrow. To the 10th, and Sean's just been wired up or something. And we run in multiple locations throughout New York for geographic accessibility as well. This has been there since year one. On our first year, we ran in 15 locations. We built it up to 40 locations, but then we consolidated down. And during the pandemic, we learned that we could be much more accessible geographically if we run virtually. And this was a beautiful learning, and we are continuing, even though we don't get the rights for all the films, as an example of tonight's film, to have it on virtually. About half of our films are available virtually, so people can enjoy ReelAbilities from anywhere. Beyond the films, we also have other amazing events. We have a summit every year, an industry summit for performing arts, talking about film and performing arts, and kind of the next level of accessibility and how to keep making sure we're going to do this right, as we're seeing a lot of changes in our society. And then we have a comedy night every year, which is a lot of fun. This year, Pavar Snipe, who's a comedian, is putting it all together. It's turning into a whole variety show that is way out of our capacity, but it's going to be a fun night. And then our own, very own, if I may, Shian Horn runs a beauty and fashion. Thank you. It's getting late in the day. Beauty and fashion conversation where she really takes these concepts also to the next level and talks about the intersection of disability and beauty and fashion. And a lot of this relates very much back to our core. All of it relates back, I think, to our work with film and creating cultural change. That's I think, what we're all doing here through our stories, through these films. I said a lot. I've gone on fast. I can't believe they kept up with me. But I'd love to first show our trailer for this year's festival to get us in the mood. So we'll run that. I'll say in the meantime, as we turn off the lights, so you'll get a quick taste of all the different films here. We try to audio describe this too, though I'm not sure that's the version we're going to get here, and caption even our trailers and make all of our materials accessible as well. So for a quick taste of all the films, we'll run the trailer.
Let me request it. So we're going to show the festival trailer first. Ben, do you have the link for that?
So I'm going to switch to the stream.
Okay. Okay, so we'll load that on the stream. And for those of you on the stream afterwards, we're going to be playing a video here, but you will be seeing other trailers on the live stream, and we thank you for being here. But as mentioned, we can't show the video. We'll be showing in the room on the live stream. Okay.
And I could say a few words in between, right? Yeah, great.
And I just would love to jump in here and say there is a virtual cast for anyone who would like to see the films that can't be there in person as part of the festival too. So I hope that applies for people online.
I have a question. Do you maybe want to spend the night tonight? You can take our rings off, if you want to. Yeah. You can consider that.
I don't know how to do this with you.
On May 16th, 1902, it was a sunny day in Cincinnati, Ohio, as the Reds hosted the New York Giants at their brand new baseball stadium. For the first time in Major League history, a deaf batter, the great William Hoy, was facing off against a deaf pitcher, Luther Taylor of the Giants, showing that deaf players could be just as good as hearing players, and setting the stage for future generations of deaf baseball players after them. Except those future generations never came.
Any memories, impressions, feelings, thoughts about this guy, Keith Wasserman?
Hi, I'm Keith.
Keith's a musician slash, as I soon found out, Renaissance man.
From theater in a space to a theater in the world.
This guy, not only is he talented, but he is out there.
Oh, you dog.
He's so out there that he's delusional.
This guy is like in a dream world.
And as I began to experience this manic psychotic episode as a vision quest, I believed that I was searching for Ani DeFranco.
Trying to reach out to this famous musician, and he had this belief that she was talking and writing lyrics to him based on his amazing gifts.
I remember looking at that box and realizing that this was all for Ani. This was all for an audience of one.
It's not normal to spend, weeks and weeks, hours and hours creating a package of layered, interactive, mixed media.
What am I hoping to accomplish? This is a ridiculousness based on a fiction, which is based on a delusion rooted in fantasy.
I never in all my years working with artists have ever heard a story like this.
This is my true story. I hope you like it.
As you can see with my stickers, with how I decorate my legs, I've always been a creative person. So to add the physical and the creative together, it's a perfect fit for me. Anytime you talk about endurance, it's about resilience and how your body can continue. You're physicalizing all that emotions, all that power, all your story within your body and your movement.
राम की तबीयत ठीक नहीं है।
अरे क्या हुआ उसे? हाँ,
पिछले 2-3 महीनों से उसका बिहेवियर बहुत अजीब सा है।
When I'm Dungeon Master, I don't need to think about my demanding job, just the adventures we're going to embark on. Today is our first game in a while. Well, since the lockdowns.
Hi, I'm Ruby. I'm a first-time player. Is this like Game of Thrones or something?
You come to a crossroads in the labyrinth. In one direction, a grisly fate awaits. In the other, escape. A roll of the dice will reveal all. Guys! Escape! You all enter the left tunnel, and there you will find...
Yes, Ruby, my love. At last I have found you. I've searched from one end of the Forbidden Realms to the other in search of you. Come, we must bring this unholy place before.
Unhand her holy swine. Oh no, a barbarian.
My man Ezra, flying without a net so that he could order himself a...
Ice tea, please.
The doctor who first told me my son was autistic could have saved us both a lot of time if he just said the truth. Autistic kids don't give a... You want me to put him in a special needs school? Jenna knows I'm broke.
She knows you're still not over her. The man your age shouldn't be living with his father.
He led 20 kids onto Washington Street.
Your son has been a danger to himself.
He's not dangerous. He's a challenge. Nobody wants to do the work.
Now I see where the dangerous behavior comes from.
Son of a...
You want to do something for your son? You get yourself to LA. Jimmy Kimmel wants to book you.
What?
They're not going to fly you. Is that going to be a problem?
No.
Hey, what are you doing?
Ezra, get in the car. I need to get him away from here.
I'm taking the car. I'm making him a side pop.
All I ever wanted was just to protect our boy.
Well, I'm protecting him now.
Give your Uncle Nicky a hug, huh? Come here.
Hey, where you going, kid? You know, the word autism comes from the Greek, in your own world. I don't want him in his own world. I want him in this world. That kid is the one thing that I can't get wrong.
Just look him in the eye. Looking a horse in the eye is like sharing your soul.
Where the hell are you?
Taking a little time off with Ez.
It's not a good time to take off, Max.
You're fighting for something. You might have to suffer consequences, but it's worth it because you did it. Because you love your kid.
A dad's job is to take his son down the field. And if he gets tackled, all that dad wants is for that kid to pick up the ball and to take it the rest of the way.
I think I just got my first match.
Maddie. I love that.
There's no way she's real. Definitely a spam account. She's gonna have me like follow her, get my credit card information, steal my identity.
It's worth it.
I kinda didn't tell her about my disability.
Just tell her. She's not gonna care. I mean, if she cares, then forget about her.
Love is the best part of life.
All we can do is take the leap.
I would just say to anyone that's thinking something similar to this, you'll never know what's going to happen to you if you take your life too soon.
We thought we'd make you a film of our everyday lives, so this is it.
Okay. Come on. Oh.
Whoa.
I grew up in a village called Elsing. It was quite magical.
Shall I skip?
I was born without hip joints and very short thigh bones.
Your diagnosis happened on our first scan. They had never seen this before. That was scary.
My disability is so rare, I can't find any proper statistics for it. There is this missing piece of the puzzle in my life. Finding someone exactly like me. I have discovered this group for people with similar conditions. So we're all going to meet together. Hi. I'm really excited.
Who here thinks that I'm a sex symbol? Are y'all kidding me? Really? No one?
Being disabled in this ableist world is brutal.
Growing up, it's definitely a struggle. No one's ever wanted to be like me. Not even I wanted to be me.
I get laughed at everywhere I go.
Is there ever going to be a point when it's not going to matter?
I used to imagine myself in the future as better, and at some point you just realize this is it.
People want improved appearance. With surgery, we could lengthen the bones, but you're not a candidate for lengthening. Usually we do that at age 3.
As a society, we'll do anything to make our disabled children as close to non-disabled as possible. I love and respect my body. Being this way is not the problem. It's what you do next that matters.
No one is the same. Everybody is so unique.
No such thing as normal.
Learning day by day to, love myself and love who I am.
It is hard being different, but
The world would be worse off without disabled people.
and now I feel a little bit less alone in the world. Which is very cool, isn't it?
Okay.
John Bayless had a pretty illustrious 30-year career as a pianist and composer.
And he was so unbelievably talented. You met Johnny and you thought, oh, this was what Mozart must have been like.
He just had this facility that nobody else had, and personality. But he was also very serious about his music.
The playing was a combination of extraordinary technique, improvisation, joy in response to everything that was going on around him. I'd never seen anything like it.
His recordings always hit the top of the charts. He had concerts all over the place. And it was because he had this ability to really bring the joy of playing the piano to audiences from many different walks of life.
After about 3 decades of performing internationally, John suffered a stroke.
I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. My right side was completely paralyzed. It was like it's finished, the old life.
Let me know. Are they back in?
Also, right before you come back in, I just want to acknowledge that was not the audio-described version of the film, but for those of you online, you didn't see that, but for those of us in the room, we did play the wrong video, so I do apologize. If you're in the room, and if you'd like to hear the audio described version, we can discuss that with you afterwards. But that's what
I was excited to hear the audio described version. I not always get to hear them in advance. So thank you. I love that film. It's such a great metaphor, and really gets into, I think, to some of the subtleties within the interactions between disability and non-disabled people. Most importantly, beyond the specific of which I diagnosed as ADHD, possibly, or maybe that's what they wrote in their form when they submitted this film. But what I also see here is a real representation of invisible disabilities and how that comes across to the rest of the world, being inside the box and having somebody from outside the box trying to communicate with you. And that's something that also I thought this film just did beautifully. They really put an emphasis on that structure and the black and white and staying within certain requirements that that this job has. And of course, somebody who's neurodivergent will not necessarily have that consistency or the organization, but will be able to bring other things to the table as well. Before we take questions, I'll just say that this film was made, and this is what I love, one of the things I love about it, is it was made by an organization that hires only people with disabilities. And they make films. It's a production company specifically for that, and they're all coming into the festival. Like, the whole company's coming in. We have another short film that actually tells the story of this organization. It's called Working Differently. So you could check that out as well at the festival if you want to get the behind the scenes. It's kind of the behind the scenes of this film. But most importantly, we have all these filmmakers coming in. We make everything accessible. We have great films. We have completely depleted our budgets on all of the things I just mentioned, that we have really slim marketing budgets. So where you can help here in this room is help get the word out, help get people there, and let people enjoy these films. Bring a friend, tell them that they're just coming for a film night and they might learn something too. Over to you, and any questions, comments, or thoughts? And Sean will begin.
It's interesting because I'll give you guys some insight as the film selection committee. We often have debates, and I will say when I first saw this, I'm like, it's not clear what the disability is. It's maybe too metaphorical. By the way, I want to say that I've been totally converted because I think it's. I mean, I knew it was, adorable. I knew it was fun. But I kind of wondered if it was too esoteric. But it is interesting. You're saying invisible disabilities. I actually can relate to this as somebody visibly disabled, because early in my career, there were no spaces. I mean, when I was in college for stating that you were disabled, so I'd show up, and people would be kind of awkward, not wanting to be awkward. And so I can see also visible disabilities sort of being the bear in the room or the elephant in the room. And, I've always said hug the elephant. But I remember interviewing for Merchant Ivory once. And the guy, he was just sort of humoring me, and he kept asking, well, but you can do everything, and I said, well, as long as there's no heavy lifting involved, it should be fine. I thought he'd chuckle, nothing, so I think there is something universal of anyone who feels kind of odd, or not even disabled, but just, maybe you don't work in a traditional manner, and that's not the way that it. So I wanted to say that I've been totally won over by this film. I do know that sometimes, not all of us agree on what makes it in the final, but watching it over again, I'm so glad it's in the festival. It kind of reminds me of the Pumpkin movie. Maybe you can tell them about the Pumpkin movie.
The Pumpkin movie is a good one, but I want to say about this one, actually, it's really interesting what you bring it up, because, yes, I was saying, it's about an invisible disability, but obviously it's about an invisible disability that's made visible. And what happens when you're invisible disability, and again, I mean, I think it was probably it was probably written in their form that it's ADHD specifically, but it's neurodivergence. It's a great just example of neurodivergence. But if that could be visible and how people would react to it, and I thought it was just a really interesting experiment of it all.
And I've just had that experience. I've had that experience in the room where the person wants to seem like it's okay and they don't want to bring it up, but So I think it really reflects that awkwardness that people have on both sides, but also in this case, obviously a very, I don't think every employer is this black and white, literally, right? But anyway, okay, I love this film. Bye.
Anyone else have a question or comment?
Yeah, and I wanted to ask, just from, I guess, starting point of the authors or the creators of the bear, like, how do they submit, and what's the process for submitting and getting reviewed, and what's the criteria?
Yeah, so this is something that also has been a system that's evolved over the years. We get hundreds of submissions, which is wonderful. We work with a platform called Film Freeway, which is it's a film festival not disability specific, a film festival submission platform. So we have a huge group of judges who help us select the film. This film selection committee, which is on different levels. We take people who are watching it who are joining us new, people who have been with us for years, and it goes through a kind of a system till we make our final decisions. For the filmmakers themselves, we ask them to fill out a form, which has also evolved over the years, and beyond everything that they need to submit to the platform, we have a very specific form where we ask, who's involved in the film that has a disability? Are any of the cast and crew? Is it any of the filmmakers? Or any of the anybody else who might be related? What other diversity might have been included in the process of the filmmaking? So we really look to see and learn as much as possible about these films. They send us the link, we watch it, and unfortunately we make more enemies than friends because we have to turn down hundreds of films that honestly, people work so hard on these movies and it takes so long, and you've made this movie and you're like, I'm making this movie so it could be in ReelAbilities, in the one of the few disability film festivals out there, and then it doesn't get in. And where is it going to get shown? And most of these films do not get shown anywhere, which is really heartbreaking to me.
All right, and we're going to take a question from the live stream, and then we'll also be taking questions here in the room. Question: who's responsible for adding captions? And I'll also add to their question audio descriptions to the films. Do the film productions do that, or is there any part of ReelAbilities that assists with that?
ReelAbilities made the decision that we're going to make every film accessible in terms of audio description and captioning, so we do it. We do see in the last few years that some films are coming to us with their audio description and captions already in place, and that's great, and we love to see that. The majority of the films we still have to do that. I'll tell you also in that process, as part of what we do, is we don't just approve it. We hand it back to the filmmakers and say, this is your tool for the future. Approve it. See this as part of the creative process. How do does this work for you? Some of them watch it, some of them don't. Some of them just say, sure, approved. And some of them see that, oh wait, you know what? That caption there actually is not timed correctly and ruins the joke. It, if you put that caption there, you need that pause. Timing is everything with humor. So then we make changes, and at the end we actually give it back to them, and they own those accessibility aids that then we hope they'll use as much as possible. This is another frustrating side of our business, is they don't. They rarely use it. Rarely is there a place that shows other festivals rarely will use all of the accessibility aids that we create. So that's something that we're also trying to change. We're saying, no, say to Sundance, I want to show it with it. They don't go from us to Sundance, but other way around. But say to whatever festival, I want to show it with open captions. I want to make sure that the audio description is provided, and we're seeing little change. So they're starting to wake up to it.
That's great. All right, we'll take some questions in the room. All right.
Thank you. First of all, thanks a lot for what you do. I haven't heard about ReelAbilities before, but thank you. I specifically empathize with the need for open captions because English is not my first language, and I've watched a lot of movies in English, but captions always help me. Anyway, that's not the question. The question is, I'm just curious what your background is and how and why you got into this, how this idea occurred to you. Thank you.
So first of all, I'll say accessibility. This is not my saying. Accessibility helps everyone, right? And captions is something that you don't have to have a disability to be able to enjoy captions and for it to serve you. How I got into this, I come from I studied film and I was making films, and then I realized that was really not for me. I had to get up early, and set environment was like just didn't really do it for me anymore. It lost kind of, honestly, I was losing the magic. It kills the magic of film. And I had this wonderful opportunity to run the film center at the JCC in Manhattan, which wasn't yet a film center. It was just a new building that had opened up. This is 19 years ago. And they wanted to have a film program. And I, was lucky enough to get that job and to develop a film program. And what I wanted to do was to show films that weren't being shown everywhere else, that were important films, that were great films, and not, that's, I felt something that I could bring to the community, and films that I believed in and connected to. We showed one film about the disability community, and I saw what an impact it has and how important it is. And when you show one film, other people hear about you, and they send you, back then all the screeners came on DVDs, and I had a whole stack of DVDs on my desk of disability related films. And I said to one of my colleagues, I said, we have a festival here. And as luck would have it, I met a woman who ran a network of disability organizations who understood the power of film as well, and had the same idea. And we came together, and ReelAbilities was born. And again, it didn't come from me. Disability was in my life, and it was disability. I wasn't one of those people who completely shut out disability. I always had some disability pride of myself, but it wasn't about me. It wasn't about my experience. It was about bringing these films out there, and through there, I became part of a community that I'm now proud to be a part of.
Great. Question here. You mentioned live audio describing a film at the last minute, which I would have loved to see. That's an incredible skill set to be able to do that on the fly. In general, I've done audio descriptions for short things for clients that are a minute, 2 minutes. When you get a film in, you decide it's going to be in the festival. What is your typical turnaround time for audio description and kind of feedback cycles with the filmmaker to make sure it aligns with their vision? And I'm just kind of curious to, and maybe that's a longer talk than we have time for, but the process of that.
It's a great question, because I love to vent a little bit and say that that in most festivals that you go to, you could choose your films. I don't know. Let's say you need a month to promote your festival. You lock your program 2 weeks before that. You got to go to print and stuff. So let's say a month before that. And so basically it's 2 months before the festival, you've locked in your films and you know it all. We have to lock in our films at the end of December, and and start that audio describing and captioning process. By the way, we used to do a lot of this. We used to record audio description in-house. Now, luckily, there's enough spaces that we can outsource it completely. We actually have to work with 2 different companies, because one company, it would be overwhelming for them to take on all of our films. So we work with 2 different companies who put it all together. We get them approved. Then we also have to have different versions of it. You have to have, and you have to make sure that the captions are working. So we have, for some theaters, where the captions are up in a cloud, actually, and we have an app that syncs up with the film and the audio description. So there's a lot of technology that goes into that. We're still working on our audio description for tomorrow night's film to make sure that it works, because it's yet to. and this is with a big company. It doesn't matter how much money you have; these things take time. And really, ReelAbilities has a very unique process in terms of that I think stands out from every other film festival. And it's funny, as we're trying to convince more film festivals to be like us and to be more accessible, we haven't told them that this means that it's going to take them twice as long, and they're it's going to throw off their timeline, and suddenly they have to say yes to films before film. Months. If we were able to say yes to films 2 months before our festival, it would open the door for many other opportunities.
Right. And one more from online, and then one last question also in the room, and then we'll be wrapping tonight. But I think related to what you were just speaking to. Are there any guidelines as far as like for people submitting that they need to follow, or do you all like produce anything where they need to follow something to be in best practices for you?
I mean, we say films that are by or about the people with disabilities. It doesn't even have to be about a disability. Sometimes if it's made by a disability, the truth is what you have to recognize is that it is, luckily enough for us, it's sad for filmmakers. It's an extremely competitive market. So all those wonderful films out there that are a little bit, connected to the disability are not going to make that final cut. Right. We're going to need the ones. Ultimately, we have enough films that really present it all and have the full package that get out there, and those are the ones that will make that. And by the way, some of those who have the full package don't make the final cut. Yeah. We just don't have enough slots for it.
I hear a lot of complaints because I think sometimes people think if there's disability in it, ReelAbilities will say yes, and people don't realize just how many films we do look at, and the quality that. Our standards are quite high. And one thing I wanted to say I'm really proud of is we have prioritized over time authentic casting, much more than when I first started with you guys. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
I mean, so there's always this question of authentic casting, of having the actors be actually disabled, and we like to say in ReelAbilities, or I like to say, that we go for responsible casting. We want to make sure that the casting you did in your film actually, sometimes you can't. I mean, I like to give this example. If it's a film about Alzheimer's, you might not be able to cast someone with Alzheimer's in that role. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. But have you actually done the searches? Have you actually done everything you could to... You have to have a really good reason not to cast a person with a disability in order to ultimately be in the festival. Also, there are so many... When we first started this film festival, it was rare to find a film that was authentically cast. Yeah. So we had to take other films. Yeah. Today, we are 100% authentic and proud, and for years now we've been doing that, and we know that those films that are not authentic or not done responsibly enough are not going to make the cut. I will say, as a recommendation, to fill out our form, the personal form, that's very helpful. That's the first thing I look at. I like to know who's involved with this film that it connects to the disability world, and where else this is the right film for us. Feel free to also reach out. We get hundreds of films. I try to put my eyes on all of them, but I've also not. Some years I don't get to all of them. And if it's a film that somebody wrote to me and said, "Oh, could you check out my film for ReelAbilities?" Doesn't mean it's getting in, but it helps. And that's, by the way, true for any festival. Always, send a personal email to the to those who are running the festival. Can't hurt.
Awesome. We're going to take one last question in the room.
Thank you. So I'm curious about particularly audio description, right? Are you able to edit any of these videos, or is that more of an audio describer skill to make sure that whatever is being described is within that lapse or that pause of a scene? How does that work?
Ooh. It's such an art form. First of all, and there's different philosophies, by the way. So some people come to it saying, "Oh, you have to say as much as possible." Some say as little as possible. Yeah. Some say be objective, and just give a general kind of sense. And some say capture the feeling of what's going on. But once you're capturing the feeling, then you're bringing yourself into it. And what does that mean? I actually like that. come from the artistic side, so I like seeing it when people are bringing in their own interpretations. The filmmaker might be like, "Oh, you didn't get this film at all." You're saying, and that's true about captions too. Like, what is that music in the background? Is that uplifting music, or is that, whatever other kind of music? It might take in different directions. And people bring themselves and their experience into it. It's not necessarily objective, which is really interesting. Sean was saying before how we disagree about films. I don't think we've ever had a film that everybody agreed on, right?
Yeah.
I'll always be like, wait, everybody agrees except that one person? What's happening here?
Yeah.
People see movies differently. And that's the beauty of our diversity, and I've learned to accept it. I can't change it. So.
And maybe one last question, just like plug the dates and locations for where this will be happening.
April 3rd to the 10th. Our main location is the JCC Manhattan on 76 and Amsterdam, but we're in, I think, 10 other locations throughout the New York metro area. We're also available virtually as well. Our opening night is tomorrow night. It is sold out now. Is opening at the Time Center tomorrow night. And we also have a streaming site that I mentioned, our streaming site that has some of our older films that we try to give them a home there. And please help us spread the word. ReelAbilities.org is the website. And
REEL.
REEL. And be sure to go to the New York one because we have it in other spaces as well. And it seems that some of them have better Google performances than the New York one for some reason, even though we're kind of the biggest one. And yeah, we're excited to have you. Please tell your friends and your networks wherever you can to get the word out and join us. Thank you. Great. Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Isaac.
Oh, I have brochures in the back too. For those of you here in person, there's a bunch of brochures in the back. You could grab as many as you can and help spread the word and check out the program. Thank you. Have a good night.
And so thank you so much. And, we really do want to celebrate. We're here in New York City, and we have this film festival in New York. So I'll just echo what Isaac said. Let's promote it. Keep growing it, make it bigger and bigger and bigger. As mentioned, it's the world's largest. Let's make it even larger, right? So thank you so much, everyone, for coming tonight. And for those of you on the stream, we also thank you. We want to say thank you to Meryl Evans, who's been monitoring our live stream.
Woo, woo.
Almost knocked my computer off.
Very smooth, very smooth.
It's very smooth. We always post a recap of our events on the Equal Entry blog. We will summarize and link to all the information that was presented here. For our event tonight, we really did have a new feature where we were showing a feature film, so we couldn't put that on the live stream, but you hopefully were seeing some of the amazing trailers for other films that will be shown at the film festival. And we always seek to have an accessible event. We say thank you to Jolie McPhee from the Internet Society, the Accessibility Group, there for doing our live stream and making sure that we always have a stream available, and also to Mira by Night for our amazing live human captions for our event. We want to let you know our next event in May is still in the works, but we also do have an event set for June 4th. We're going to be having a researcher from Columbia, Vishnu Nair. He's going to talk about creating accessible games that are equivalently accessible to blind and low vision gamers. So go to our Meetup page to sign up and find out about that event. I want to say thank you to our event host here, AKQA. Thank you so much for hosting us, having us here. It's a beautiful space here in New York City, and we really appreciate being able to have our events here. We also want to say thank you to Equal Entry, Fable, and events for our event sponsors. And again, stay tuned to our Meetup page for our next event. We will also be having an event in May. We just have not announced it yet. So thank you everyone from the stream, and thank you everyone here in person. Let's now hang out and get to know each other better.
Woo-hoo.
Thank you.
And if anyone wants to know what my favorite film